Live. In the chat in case you guys want to look them up or buy some of their products or goods or services, because everybody's so multi-talented. Belmaris Zeni, is that how you say your name, Zeni? I hope I have not butchered it.
Yes, thank you. How are you?
Good. How about you? I understand because I have a name that I think my mom gave me a very beautiful name, but it sometimes gets butchered. All right, it is 7:02. People are going to continue popping on, and that's what we want, but we are going to get underway. I would like to briefly introduce our panelists after saying thank you, everybody, for coming on and visiting with a good morning from Sweden. Nice to see you, Sweden. There's people joining us from all around the world. And some people from Sweden are up first thing in the morning, and some people from New York are up last thing at night, but the community thought that this was going to be an important conversation. And so here we all are. So this is officially our first session for the Women's Channel for Music Alliance. I'm very excited about it. This particular session is on bridging the gap. Because we all know there is one, but the reasons for it are not all of them are a mystery. Some of them we'll talk about, and we've all, gone through and experienced things, and we know what they are. But we definitely wanted this time to talk about one of the big issues, which is a big drop off in the fact that 50% or more, depending on which year you're looking at it, of girls in music education girls are in music education. So 50% of that population is female, but there is a huge drop off. And when we look at women doing music professionally or involved in the industry or getting paid for their art, reported is only 17.8%. And I'm going to be dropping links to some of this. Obviously, this is not all the research. I don't want to bombard you guys, but just like different articles and things that we looked at to come up with these numbers. We all, and we got another thing I wanted to share with you, as I'm very excited because almost 100% of our RSVPs for this event were women. And that was so exciting to me because one of my theories is that obviously that 17.8% only includes what we think are professional working musicians, but there are more musicians out there who are female who are either not counted, not reported, or not what people would think of as quote unquote professional musicians. So that's my last thing I'm going to brag on about our community, but we are going to be doing this monthly. This is just our first one about bridging the gap. Our next one is going to be about women who saw fit to make their own way, who are managing themselves, producing themselves, writing their own music, own their own companies, and just found a different way. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to introduce our panel. And I'm just going to introduce them in the way that I'm seeing them up top. But we have Andre Caballero here. He is the principal of the Rappa Academy here in Las Vegas, and he is also an artist musician. And Jay, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi there. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Jay Caballero. So I have a charter school here in North Las Vegas, and big deal, right? Charter school, but this is a contemporary music art school. This is like under the rock and roll umbrella, commercial music, whatever you want to call it. So, we're not a traditional band and orchestra choir school. All of our students come in, they basically want to do modern music. And that's what they do. They select a major of guitar, bass, drums, keys, vocals, and sound, audio engineering, and et cetera, like that. So that's the gist of the school. We're going in our third year. And so I was thrilled. First of all, Shondell, thank you for inviting me to give my perspective coming in from the music education side. And I'm just delighted to be here with all the other panel members. And I'm looking forward to hearing their expertises and lenses and perspectives. And then welcome to all the guests. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Eva Karszewska. Oh, Eva, you are muted. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is great. I'm a guitar player. I play live performance all over Las Vegas. I also produce my own tracks for bands and write music, dabble a little bit of everything in music, but mainly I do a lot of live performance here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and Eva actually is, and Eva and Mary both work with a lot of female artists. I didn't actually think about that till now, but you all have girls all up in your space, but we'll talk about that soon.
Yes, yes.
And then next up is Mary Aiden.
Hello. I'm Mary Aiden. I am a singer, bass player here in Las Vegas. I've been here about 23 years. Been doing this about 37 professionally, and I'm looking forward to this. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm super geeked, so yay.
Mary is doesn't tend to toot her own horn, so I'm going to toot it like that much. She's a wicked bass player. Her and one thing that everybody on the panel has in common too is that they've worked with youth. They have mentored other women in the industry. They work with a lot of other women. Mary is also a show producer. She was producing Chicks Who Rock at one point, or she was the musical director for Chicks Who Rock at one point, which was an all female rock show here in Las Vegas. And she's also in Three Lock Box, which is a Sammy Hagar tribute band, but she also just recently played behind the actual Sammy Hagar. So that's fun.
Yes.
Fun fact. All right, next we have Harley Swisher.
Hello, everybody. My name is Harley Swisher. I play bass here professionally in the scene, and I teach kids at Ready Set Gig. I also do a summer program called Girls Rock Vegas, which was actually at the Delta Academy this summer. And I went to CSN for recording and music business and studied under John Jacobson for that. And then at UNLV, I studied jazz composition with Stephen Flora for bass and Carlos Mata for the composition. But during my time, I had one professor that was a female, and
wow.
She was the only woman, Dr. D, and she was like one of the changing forces of my life. It was definitely interesting just to have someone that in this like male-dominated world. It was pretty great. So I love all of this, and also because girls rock, So
of course we do.
Yeah. Well, I meant Girls Rock Vegas, but yeah, Girls Rock.
Not in general. You mean like the okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but also yeah.
All right, and also not her own horn tutor, and we'll let her talk a little bit more about this later as well, but she is in one of the band members at the Majestic Repertory Theater here in Las Vegas, and I recently got to see them do Hedwig, and she was ridiculously good, and they have some stuff coming up. So we'll let her talk about that a little bit later. And Miss Jasmine Sandler, please.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Seems like a really great group. So I'm Jasmine Sandler. My artist name is Jazz Rock, and I have two businesses, and they're all about helping artists and creative people monetize. So one is the poster behind me, Warrior Women in Business. We produce women's business and music events. So all the events that we do in New York and Los Angeles are bringing artists in for monetization opportunities through our events. And then JSM for Artists is a full suite of services, of branding and marketing services for artists. So I, as an artist and a musician, I have such a sweet spot for helping. And that's how I shifted my business, which is actually about 15 years old, into really supporting women and music. So very happy to be here.
Yay, thank you, Jasmine. And see, she's in marketing and branding, so she's amazing at tooting her own horn. I love it. And then last but definitely not least, or in any particular order, Miss Renee Bang. Can you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Shondell. Hi, everyone. So great to be here. Thank you so much. I was thinking about like, what do I call myself? And I can only think of a hack. Like I'm a total hustler, hack, make it work, get it done kind of girl. So I would say my God-given talent is singing, love doing it. Now I'm teaching it, which has been so gratifying. Actress, producer, writer, and now I'm really kind of tickled by the idea of mentoring. I think it would be really fun to and rewarding to bring people along on this crazy music journey that we're all on. And this is such a great start. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. Also not a horn tutor, but she definitely, we met each other when we were both GMs at the School of Rock. Renee, what city were you in?
Red Bank, New Jersey.
Red Bank, New Jersey. Yep. And I was here in Las Vegas. And
we met at training.
We did. It was crazy. If you guys can imagine training to be the principal of rock school, that was like a lot, a crash course in pretty much everything. So
yeah. Super rewarding experience that in and of itself. Being an administrator of the arts is not for the faint of heart by any stretch. So I'm feeling really good where I'm at right now because I'm not administrating, which I feel like is a luxury. But honestly, learning all the aspects of business is just more power to you. So that's kind of how I'm figuring this all out.
Awesome. And then I just want to give honorable mention. He's not on the panel, but our founder, Niels, is here. I don't know if anybody has been on any of our other meetups and met him, but he is the person who's started this conversation actually about the Women in Music channel. So I'm glad he's able to join us today. And let's dig in. So I'm going to ask some questions. While I'm asking these questions, I'm going to drop some different stuff in the chat. I also want to acknowledge that somebody asked about our panelists' information. I promised to drop that in the chat as well, so you can find them and use them up. Where this community is all about how we can use each other in positive ways. But one of the first things, and I'll ask a panelist, and then I'll drop a couple of these articles in the chat in case anybody wants to look at them later. But one of the big things, as I mentioned earlier, was this sort of drop off in I can't call it interest, but in female bodies being involved in professional music, even though there's a lot of interest as far as music education. So I'm just going to go around. We're just going to roundtable this, guys. And of course, like I said, for our guests, please go ahead and drop your comments in the chat. you know, because we don't want you to forget anything as we move on, but we will open up and let you guys talk to each other and the panelists. But I'm going to start with Jay, because I had reached out to Jay, not really as any form of research, but just trying to find out what was going on in the community here in Las Vegas, and asked him what percentage of his students were female. And Jay, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 60%. Was that true?
Yeah, a little bit more than that. And actually, I just remember I don't think I shared with my school name. So it is the Delta Academy, which is public charter. But we have a music conservatory, which is called Rock Academy of the Performing Arts, it's RAPA for short. And that's what Shondell mentioned earlier. Just for your information, it's when I say RAPA, that's our school, that's our music conservatory, and it's contemporary, like I said earlier. So in our class, in our school, in our conservatory, 75% of our students are female. And of course, the 25 male, but we break it down to instrumentation, like vocals, guitar, bass, keys, drums, audio, lighting, etc. And with this kind of interesting, of the females that make up 75% of our school, 75% of them are vocalists, and the other 25% are, instruments or stage or audio or lighting. So that's kind of interesting too. 100% of our male students are instruments.
Wow.
It's interesting as well. We're always going, we need that male singer in there too, as well, because we have all of our students are singers, are females. So, but again, going back to the school demographic in total, 75%, which is very much indicative of the study that you provided us as well for that reading. And then then we could talk about the gap or the drop off. And so, we don't have any long-term studies. Of course, we're new. We're only a couple of years old, but we could definitely hypothesize. We're not trying to make superstars here, rock stars. If it happens, great. But that's not our intention. Our intention is to graduate from high school, because we're 9 through 12. Where our intention is to have students gain confidence, self-esteem, also just musicianship as well. So that's what we're trying to accomplish at our school. So in the 4-year journey, we don't know what's going to happen if the students, specifically females, want to continue in either higher education, trade, or just going into the profession. We don't know that yet. We could just hypothesize what's happening in that 4-year journey, and things change. Their passion, interests become or go down a different pathway. We don't know yet. I have my thoughts, but I want to hear what the rest of the panel thinks with their experiences as well.
Of course. I am gonna ask Renee next what you have seen, because I know, like I said, like you said, you were an administrator. What did you find that most of your female students were choosing to sing, or were they choosing instruments? Was it mixed? What did it look like in your school?
To be honest,
What does it look like for you now?
Yeah. So as both administrator and educator, it still has been trending pretty significantly towards singing for my students. I don't know. It's funny. I feel like there's certain instruments that come gendered, which is so not what instrumentation is about, but there's an association. And I think that's maybe what we're here to demystify or figure out. But to answer your question, yeah, I've seen definitely, I would say 70% of my students have always been female in terms of singing. So I teach singing and piano, which are kind of identified female in a way, mostly singing. I also play the flute, which is singing, like female-y. And then the saxophone I had to learn when I was offered a role on Broadway. And I was like, cool, I would love to learn that. But yikes, in a way, it's like, okay. But I also identified the sax as being more male in a way. And it's so strange because between the flute and the sax, it's this more or less the same fingering. So why is that? That's my question back. It's like, why are certain instruments, and including the voice, gendered? It's
You know
weird.
what? I'd like to ask, let's talk to Harley next. And I would like to just stick in there, and I'd like you guys to drop it in the chat if you felt this way too, that you thought possibly growing up, some instruments were encouraged for girls more because they were more feminine. I definitely had heard.
I grew up like that.
Yeah.
My grandma was like, you are not going to play the bass because that is very masculine. You're going to play the viola or the violin because it is small and I can carry that in my car. And that sounds like a joke, but that was like a real thing. And so a lot of my growing up was like I was drawn to, I guess, what people say are like more traditionally masculine things. And so a lot of it was like, don't do that, but and don't get me wrong, my family has always been very supportive and stuff, but that was like one of the things. It's interesting because I teach, my kids are about half and half. I have 2 singers, one is a boy and one is a girl, and the rest of them are split through the instruments. But I do see that there is like a gender disparity in some of them. Like my keyboard players are mainly girls. The guitar players I have, this one is new, mainly girls. It used to be usually boys. But I think because I grew up in an educational music environment, but also in the professional music environment, and I think I can answer this question. The things that you're subjected to in either environment are very different. When you're going in education, like sometimes it's hard, sometimes the expectations are, especially for a woman, you got to stand out because people don't like what, like sometimes. And at UNLV, they were very kind, but they would say that to us sometimes, like the real world is like this, so be careful, But in the real world, there's a lot of sexual harassment. There's a lot of I used to play out here all the time, and there was a promoter. There was a list between women in the scene who were trying to support each other by saying who is dangerous. And this promoter who I trusted hit me up and was like, don't share that. And I was like, why not? And he was like, don't, if you want to play, don't share that list. And so he ended up unfriending me, and that was like pretty disheartening and stuff. But the environment they're 2 very different environments. One is a little more crass and sometimes it's harder to deal with like emotionally, because both of them require the same technical ability, but like some of the stuff that we face just going out there just to play the bass is like kind of wild, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
never something I would face in the classroom ever.
Wow. So we're going to stop for just a sec. I would like to remind everybody who's on with us to please make sure that your mic is muted until it's your turn to talk. We're getting a little sound interference, and we're also recording, and so we're getting a little interference in who's being displayed on the screen right now. Mary, can you go ahead and chime in next? Because you play bass, but you also started out as a drummer. I know for me growing up, that was a big no-no. You weren't gonna like open your legs and get on the drum.
Yeah, and back then I wore 5.5-inch heel stilettos and a little mini skirt, but it was the 80s, so we wore the tights. We always had tights on. And are you kidding? With people like Karen Carpenter and Sheila E., it was not a man's world. And I was never, I don't know, I guess I grew up a little differently. My brother was a drummer, so there was a drum kit in the living room, and my sister was a singer, my dad was a singer. And so it wasn't, there was never this is for a girl, this is for a boy, for me. But I tend to, I guess, gravitate towards the rhythm section. So I didn't see that as a gender thing. And just like one of the comments about playing sax, I mean, I'm sure Katya had a lot of issues, the Rod Stewart sax player, but she is one of the only noted female sax players, and there's a million of them. But we're not, but like, I don't know, in Las Vegas, there's at least 10 female bass players just in Las Vegas. And that's excellent. And that's a very low number. I know there's more.
Right. We're just talking about that we know and see on stage and play with personally.
Yeah.
But
That are
yeah.
actively playing, there's at least 10. And I don't know. I didn't see any kind of a, this is for a boy, this is for a girl, because my generation, you were a nerd no matter what you did in music. Oh, Alyssa's still unmuted.
Oh, that's it. Alyssa, can you go ahead and mute your mic for us, sweetie? We're getting some sound interference and some picture interference. Thank you.
But I think I kind of went sideways because Harley was talking about a couple things and I have answers to a lot, like 3 of the things.
All of the things.
Yeah. So, but as far as gender assigning, I guess, we were assigned a recorder. If I'm showing my age, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But we had the opportunity to pick up the violin and to pick up a horn instrument and to pick up percussion and to pick up piano. I don't know. I wish that the music programs were like they were 40 years ago, 50 years ago, because in school, there was so much music back then. I know there was a lot more gender positioning with the music. There wasn't in Reno, because I grew up in Reno, but there was more choice. You had more of a choice because it wasn't, you have to buy your own instrument. A lot of stuff was supplied back then. Things weren't stolen like they are now. And, you didn't have to. So if I wanted to play the drums, there was a drum kit at the school as well as at my house. I didn't have to transport it. And, but like I said, back then it was so different as far as what women can and cannot do. And, I know we're jumping subject because sexual harassment is further down.
It's, it's all part of the same subject. I'm going to ask Jasmine to chime in now, but that's an interesting point, and I'm filing that to the back for future conversations. We're definitely going to talk about representation, but also I think it makes a difference, or at least it did in my experience as a music school administrator as well. When the girls came in and wanted to play a bass or a drum set, if their parents didn't have to buy it, it was a bit easier for me to be like, hey, she really doesn't want to play piano.
Exactly.
She kind of sucks at the singing. So could she please play drums? Like, she can play them here.
Well, no, when there's an opportunity, absolutely. Yeah, and I got to do a clinic at the School of Rock, and 70% of the bass players that were in there were women, or little girls. There were girls. No, I was so excited. I know, huh? And the first thing I did when I walked in, I just said, you know how abnormally beautiful and special you all are? And they just kind of looked at me because they're cool. Musicians and these young kids, I'm super happy about that. They're like the cool kids. Thank you, High School Musical. Thank you, all the other stuff that we didn't have, because we were the biggest nerds, but we were also the most creative because we never had the boyfriends and never got to go to prom and never got to do stuff like that. But we were so focused in our music, it helped us excel. I don't know. I'm totally going left field. Jasmine, please chime in.
No, that was great. I can't wait to hear your music. Anyway, so whoever talked about the viola, I have to second that. Yeah, Harley. So when I wanted to play music, I was really, really young, and I said I wanted to play the drums. And my mom gave me a viola, and I broke it. I like slammed it against the wall. I was like, I'm never doing this. I hated it. So I learned piano. I'm a vocalist and songwriter. Anyway, and so I saw definitely 100% that there's this kind of regulation to give women, girls back in the day, piano lessons singing lessons, viola, flute, I think somebody mentioned. Yes, definitely. In New York, I have 2 bands, and I have spent the last year trying to find a female guitarist. It's like overrun with men. It's so difficult, so difficult. And when a female bassist or a guitarist is good here, they really, really stand out. And I kind of wish that weren't the case. So I definitely think that there's a need for more, I think, support for female musicians. I've played with quite a few female drummers in the last few years, and I see that picking up. So that's kind of interesting, and I'm really happy about that. I actually attend Juilliard in their extension program for adults, which is, it's amazing. And so I'm in the classroom now, and there's definitely a divide still. There's a lot of pianists, a lot of singers that are female, you know. There's still a divide at that level. But I did want to address the question that you originally asked, which is why the draw towards women in music education versus, you know, women performers. And that's one of the reasons I'm so involved with Warrior Women in Business and everything I do, because I feel like there's just huge disparity in payment for what female musicians deserve. And so I can count at least 5 friends of mine that are amazing female musicians that all teach to get paid, and they get barely anything to play out. And I just think it's so sad. So I think there needs to be a big change at the music business industry level. And I hope everybody's on board with that. But I do see, anyways, in New York, it's probably very different than Las Vegas. But I definitely see, I don't know, but I definitely see women drummers coming up here. I'd love to see more female guitarists shine. That's a big thing that I would personally love to see.
All right. Well, speaking of female guitarists, Eva, I'd like to hear from you what you see now versus when you were learning guitar. You had 2 girls and a boy in your family. What were your siblings?
Yeah, two girls and a boy, and I loved music so much, but my parents really didn't have the money. I wanted to actually really play keyboards, and they didn't really have the money to get the keyboards, but for some reason, my brother wanted the guitar, and the music store had a guitar for sale with the amp, like a little deal. So my brother got the guitar, and it was the only instrument in the house. And besides that, I always loved rock music anyway. So I picked up the guitar and took over.
I love it. I love that story that you wanted to, how lucky for us.
I'm from Detroit, Rock City. So there's a lot of rock there. So now for band wise, there wasn't many opportunities for females and girls. So I just started my own band because I loved it so much. So I grabbed my girlfriends. I had a girl bass player and another girl guitar player. We did have a guy drummer though, but we started our own band. I just started the band, and off we went, you know, playing gigs in Detroit.
Nice. So like, we've definitely established that girls want to learn how to play, that they want to learn how to play.
Raised by them, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone not got their mic muted. Thanks, guys.
It's Alyssa. Alyssa, please mute.
Hopefully she heard us, because sometimes when I see her screen, I don't actually see anybody. But girls want to learn instruments. They want to learn music. They want to learn music in lots of ways.
But I also think it's what city you're in too, and how much opportunity there is. You know, being from Detroit, we had a really good music scene. You know, like I said, I had to form my own band, but we did. So it depends also, you know, what town you're from and how much music there is. You know, and then even that wasn't enough, and I had to move to LA and Vegas so I could play I wanted to play all the time.
That makes sense. I mean, it seems, you know, obviously if there's less opportunity for women overall, if you live in a city where there's less opportunity, the chances are going to be even smaller.
That's right.
I want to switch to one of the things that Jasmine hit on, which are the reasons why girls would like to learn music, but they're not going we shouldn't say they're not going into the music industry, but we don't see them represented in the music industry. And some of the reasons, and I'm actually going to skip one of the questions and go back to it just because I like that Jasmine hit on it. One of the reasons was being underpaid. Not as the other ones are not as many female role models, so representation, sexual harassment we hit on a little bit earlier, lack of access to a male dominated industry. So it could almost be viewed as systematically keeping women out, and exclusion. And we're going to talk heavily about this one later, but exclusion from the production and songwriting parts of the industries, because I feel like just like we're seeing a lot more female singers, we're seeing a lot less female producers and songwriters. Eva hit a little bit on like opportunity and like where you have to move. And let's hear from Renee. Renee, I mean, we're gonna hear from everybody, but I'm gonna pick on you now. As far as, do you find that like over the years as you've been teaching music and you've been an administrator and all the things, that students want to go into the professional industry, and that when you're talking to girls, you kind of know what's coming, but are we having that? I know that like certain professional places, we can't necessarily have that conversation, which is why I wanted to do the women's channel and women in music. I know that we as women know there are some things coming down the pike, when you want to encourage girls to go into the industry, but you know what's coming. Like, how do we even navigate that?
You know, it's so interesting, and I love having this discussion with my students, the young ones. Like, I mean, my youngest students are like 6 or 7, some of them, and my oldest is 85. It's crazy. That's the beauty. I think we need to encourage more people to understand that even though a career in music is crazy, because like there's so little security, but it can also be incredibly valuable, and not just in a financial sense, but in like a longevity sense. Like you can literally start playing at the age of 7 and at the age of 70 still retain that information. I was talking to 2 of my students today about that, and it was like I was reminding them that like we're more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, not just women, but as humans. Like we can actually create entire careers out of passion. And I think we all come to music, or we all stay with music because of passion. And if we can encourage our kids to really own their musicianship, oh my gosh, like that's, I didn't get voice lessons, for instance, even though I'm a singer now. I'm a singer because I was like, well, I want to do that. I had voice lessons, but it wasn't like it wasn't an encouraged thing, because my parents were like, well, you can't be a musician because that's like crazy and you're crazy and whatever. And I was like, well, I don't care what you say. I'm still going to do it. And I just wish that parents were more encouraging to their kids on owning what they innately know. Just being, you kind of are born a musician, and you also can become a musician with encouragement. That to me would be really important. Like, let's start with the kids, and how can we really make them feel like it's a valid career choice? It's a valid, it's a valid money maker. It's a valid, like, it's a cool thing to do. I think it was, I can't remember your name, but Nan from Las Vegas. You're in the blue shirt. Christine, is it?
Mary.
That's Mary, sorry.
Gosh.
I was like,
Sorry,
Nan, oh yeah,
I don't-
Nan's here, I'll have to look around.
No, I know it said Nan because it's wrong. I need to change that, don't I?
But having the discussions with our kids early on and really like reminding them that they have the ability to do this regardless of what other forces are coming at them. So maybe it's about starting younger. Did I get super circuitous? I know you probably asked one question and I just went on a total tangent, but
No, it makes totally sense. It totally makes sense. So, I mean, what I got out of that is like, obviously start younger. I love that point. And then to start the conversation from the standpoint of you, not you, a little girl, or you, a little Black child, or you, a poor child from Hoboken, New Jersey, I don't know, wherever people are poor, which I guess is all over the world, but you know, you.
if they live in Hoboken, they're doing fine. Just saying.
But you as a person can do this thing that people think is impossible no matter what gender you are, right? And start from that standpoint and then encourage the crap out of them. I guess there's just no way to, like, obviously if we stood there and we listed the myriad of things that could happen, you know, who would want to enter music? I'm going to ask Harley next.
Okay, just because I'm doing this for my brain to channel back into the question because there's so many points that get talked about. But it was what I would do
to encourage girls. It's hard to have those conversations when children want to go into the music industry, and it's hard enough because like their dad and mom really want them to be like a lawyer or like a nurse or like whatever people are, but then you're talking to girls and you're encouraging them to enter the industry, and you've just had maybe someone email you and tell you not to share the list of like that, like that's in the back of your mind that all of these things are lining up, they're waiting for you. You're not going to get paid as much as men. You're not going to get a writing credit. You're going to be forced to wear glitter stockings if you don't want to, but yes, go into the music industry.
Yeah. You know, that's an interesting question because it does start really early with the aversion of art being something like all art. This isn't exclusive to music. It's visual art as well. Dance, it's like all that kind of stuff. A lot of people tend to look at that as lesser, even though everybody consumes it. Which is the crazy thing. Most people consume art, but everybody looks at it like it's something below. But with the girls I see a lot, it's kind of funny because we're talking about representation, and I had a student earlier where I do this with the girls. There aren't very many people that are playing behind others. Like as we're talking, there's a lot of singers. My friend was trying to get us on the show once because our band is composed of mainly women, and it was like Women Who Rock the Roof, but he's one of the front guys. So they were like, no, he's like, I don't understand why you won't put me up there if everyone is one female with a band of dudes and we're a band of mainly women, you know? But I always tell them to take a look at like who plays that instrument. Like, especially for girls that are playing bass, who's playing bass. We can look at a lot of people that are playing bass, and they don't even know that because the people that are in front that they typically see are a bunch of guys. And it starts really simple. At Girls Rock, we always give like an introduction survey, and we put like draw a rock star, and most of the times it's blank because the girls have no idea. Or they'll like draw like some guy or something like on a stage, and at the end they draw themselves, they draw an instructor, or they draw somebody that they learned about at camp that you would like, they would have never thought of at the beginning of the week. And sometimes these are girls that come every year and they like, this still happens. But I think teaching representation in a lot of things, not just the instruments, because we're talking about, I have kids that can play circles around other kids, but they would never want to be on a stage. But they could absolutely be in a studio recording. You know what I mean? Like that is something that is totally feasible for them. And it's introducing them to all those kinds of things, looking at their personalities. And that not everybody has this opportunity because some people educate in a group level, right? But when you are able to do it individually, you can start doing these things for your students and trying to make like these examples for them so that they can see that it is possible. Because I feel like sometimes, like, unless you're Katy Perry or Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift, like a singer, you're not really quite well represented, you know?
Wow, interesting perspective. Jay, and I heard you loud and clear earlier, you are not necessarily in the business of trying to make these kids rock stars. You want them, to be proficient on the instruments that they're given or that they choose. But are they asking you, like, are you finding that they're curious about even wanting to get into the industry, male or female? Do they have questions about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yes and no. Probably when they first come in as freshmen, it's just really exciting. It's exciting times, and they see this brand new contemporary academy, right? And they're going to high school for music, okay, and rock music or pop, whatever. So it's exciting. But then, as we see in the past couple of years, as we go along, they're learning theory, they're learning careers, they're learning music production, Ableton, Pro Tools, all that stuff. So it really kind of funnels into, okay, there's the focus now. And I didn't know this, a year or 2 years ago. So from my experience is that, they're going to just select their pathway regardless. I mean, I have students right now that are just saying, yeah, I'm going to continue this, and it's going to go on to either whatever, Berkeley, Musicians Institute, and others, or it's like, no, we're going directly into the studio, and I have my band, etc., and we're just going to make music and go on to whatever, which is great. I wanted to just put this into perspective or in context, in that first of all, I'm a Gen Xer, right? I have 3 kids. My kids are in their 20s already. So when I wanted to go to music school after high school, parents says, no, you're going to get your medical degree or whatever and get a real job, right? Even though I've been playing piano since 4 years old. Okay, so that's kind of weird. It's like, what happened? What happened in the past 18 years or whatever, right? And so I don't know if it's my generation now. It's like, I'm speaking for myself, but my 3 kids are musicians, and I'm supporting them. I did support them to go to be musicians and artists. Disney College Program, Musicians Institute, and UNLV, like, for that. And so I don't know, it could be a generational, that's another discussion topic for later, right? But that's where, so I'm supporting them, but then as now the director of RAPA, that's my perspective coming in with these kids. It's like, I'm going to nurture them and support them into what they want to do. This is not just a fad. This is not just a trend. We're here. We're like-minded individuals. We're focused on this. That's what drew them to this environment. And then, like I said, they'll choose their pathways. But when it comes to what we're talking about, marginalization, our environment is not conducive to any of that. Right. It's like I have female staff that I cherish to be on the staff. They're industry people as well, that they're the models for some of these young ladies, for everyone, but specifically for them. And so we pride ourselves that we're going to get in people that have industry experience and that have educational experience as well, and that they're going to guide these students. So that's what we do there. And one other point was that when we're talking about gendered music or instruments, like even sound and audio and lighting, it's like, in being in Las Vegas, we go to concerts all the time because there's headliners here on a weekly basis. And so one of the things that I do is when I go see, say, Danzig, I take a look at the production staff. I took a look at the front of the house. I took a look at the monitors, whoever, and it's males for the most part, right? And so in RAPA, it's okay, you're running front of the house today. This is for everyone. I'm not just saying, hey, Wyatt, you're doing front of the house today, or Isaac, right? Our female students that are vocalists for the most part, 75%, but you're running sound. Okay, Leslie, you're running lighting today or this week, what have you. So that's what we're trying to do in this environment. That's how we're trying to contribute to, just this overall arching question that we're discussing today. That I'm just trying my best here.
You're doing a fantastic job, Jay.
Thanks.
Jasmine, let me ask you, because I know your whole business is about, or your whole business model is based on teaching women and supporting women and being open and sharing with them. Are you finding that, because first of all, what I do want to say is it's not like there's never been any change. Things have gotten better, but just not by leaps and bounds. What do you think is going to be the thing that's going to help not only girls, but women? Because sometimes like you don't decide to go ahead and enter the industry until you're like 20 or 30, or, it's on your bucket list and you're 78 and now you're going to record an album. What is your approach to making them feel like we can do it? And as part of that, just because I'm looking at the chat, you guys, the chat is awesome. But I did say I saw someone say earlier, men support each other and they share information and they build networks. How much is that a part of it?
Okay, it's a big question. And on my podcast, half of my podcast is interviewing female leaders in the music industry, and the other half is just leaders and women in business. And one common thread that we all talk about is the genuine support of women supporting women, the genuine support, right? So it's not like the Me Too movement or a women's panel or women's this or women's that. It's actually getting down and really working with each other, collaborating with each other and supporting each other. That's one element that will move, in my opinion, with all of the women that I support and talk to, will really help to move this particular industry, and I think most women's industries forward. I'm a former hockey player, and I've been the president of national organizations in hockey, and I know about the man's club, right? And I think women, we're very different than men in how they relate to each other, and I think we need to own that. We are conversationalists, we're nurturers, and that's great, but we need to support each other in that way. It's just something that has to be done. And then the other point I'll make is that the women that I have had on my podcast, speak at my events, whatever, the ones that really stand out, to someone's point, one of the panelists talked about the keyword role model and the lack of that, and that hugely, hugely important. So like, I think my last podcast guest was Gail Dillman. She runs the Ladybug Festival, music festival. And she's a role model. Like, she kicks butt, in terms of putting on an all women's music festival for multiple years in a row and it being successful. And she's come across a lot of obstacles. So, and then, so I think, taking ownership, being accountable, really supporting other women and taking a ton of risks as a woman, it's just, you have to, because there's so many obstacles, but at the same time, us supporting each other. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. I'm going to pick on Eva, and I'm actually going to just ask this one last question before I open it up to our guests to go ahead and ask questions or make comments or share with us. Mary's got her question face on. Mary, you have a comment, but I'll get to you in like 1 second, but I want to ask Eva. We met each other in Groove Kitty, which was an all-female band at one point, and then I laughed because earlier you were talking maybe about Stun Gun. Was it Stun Gun that had the male drummer?
It was my other band, Mod Ave.
Mod F, okay. And then I just laughed because at one point Groove Kitty had a male drummer.
Stun Gun was the all-girl band from Detroit, the original. Those were my original bands. Stun Gun was the pop original all-girl band, and Mod F was the heavy rock all original band, and that had actually a guy bass player and a guy drummer, and the singer was female and me on guitar.
Okie doke. And
Yeah.
then I know you're doing Extreme Live right now, which is it all girls or is it mostly girls?
Stays in Vegas, you mean? Stays in Vegas is the show I'm doing on Fremont Street. So we have a guy singer, a female bass player, female DJ, and a guy drummer. So it's a half and half mix,
And so
which is actually really nice.
it is really nice. And then, so in your experience, do you feel like that you've had the support and had to give the support to make sure that you're able to work with other women?
You know what? I'm going to tell you a story. So, you know, my AC/DC tribute band had the guy drummer,
Okay.
High Voltage. And then there's an AC/DC tribute band in LA called Thunderstruck. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I have.
So those girls in LA, the drummer and the guitar player, I used to play with in bands in LA. So we actually very much support each other right now. You know, we like if somebody subs in, you know, somebody's not available, we sub in, I'll sub in, Leona, the other girl guitar player, subs in, and vice versa. You know, we used to kind of go back and forth. So lately it's been pretty supportive, like the women around the Vegas and LA scene, we're all very supportive of each other. Because you know what, a lot of times, you know, I can't make every gig or I get sick or something. So I need another female to fill in for me. So you know, we do have really good relationships where, you know, somebody can jump in if I can't make it, you know, things like that.
Nice.
I just want to say, I love that you are specifically covering yourself, your work with another woman, because you could have, you know, just like gotten any old guy guitar player, but that's badass right there. And that's what,
So I have my pool of female guitar players, you know, that I can ask, you know, hey, can you sub for me? Here's a show, things like that. So and I think I really love that, you know, like we definitely need to support each other because we're doing the same thing. Let's keep this dream alive. Let's grow, you know, have all the younger women come in and, you know, join us. We need to support each other in the scene because there's, you know, not as many women. So let's be supportive. Let's lift each other up and make a bigger scene, more women to join and help each other.
Absolutely. That is one of the things that we want to accomplish here at Music Alliance with our women's channel. After this, because most of you guys, I think probably at least 98% did have to join Music Alliance as an associate member to go ahead and be on this call. And we like to form Slack channels for each one of our channels. We want to be able to have you guys share your thoughts and feelings. We want to build networks where we can, and pools where we can pool for talent and find singers to record with and find songwriters for our albums and find subs for our gigs and all that kind of stuff, because we feel like it's really important. But it's getting late and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over because we have got some people in the chat here. Let's see, the first one I saw, and not the first one that I saw all night, but Kelly Cox says she'd like to say a few words and express her perspective. But Kelly, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and talk to us and tell us a little bit about your where you're coming from and what you think.
Yes, thank you so much. I really do appreciate everything. I'm actually from Chicago. I joined this kind of on a whim. I started getting into artist management. And so I have always had a passion for artists. And from Chicago, I decided to take the risk. We were talking about how challenging it is and needing to support women and how hard it is for us specifically, that I decided to choose the genre of hip hop music from Chicago. And it's been a challenging thing. I was actually considering maybe not going that route. But I recently moved to Phoenix, and understanding the difference of the talent that goes into it and what's missing and what's not still honored. And so have this passion from I'm not a musician, but I feel so much relation to the teachers. And I mean, I've written a lot of things down, so forgive me, but I mean, Jasmine, I know that you mentioned just so many things about just the whole production, or the supporting everything, and just the girls in the music industry specifically. And forgive me if I say the wrong person, but coming from my experience and just kind of wanting to, I'm trying to wrap it up to not take too much time, but, and then I did write Renee's name down with this one, that becoming a musician is in their DNA. And there's just so many forms of being that way, from the production, like we talked about, from artist management, from this aspect. And I'm really coming from a place of where I feel, I mean, I'm 33 years old and coming from an HR world, like, but I've loved music my whole life. My brother is an artist, and but it's a different form of being an artist. He's in the acting world, but it's a passion, it's in the DNA, and it's this thing that needs to be, like we talked about as women, nurtured and cultured and supported. And I just feel so privileged to be on this call. First of all, I really appreciate, I feel like I'm in a classroom. I did write that down. I feel like I'm in the classroom right now. But even beyond that, it's the support, especially getting two very different city perspectives from Chicago. You know, you have very much the female artists are, I spoke to someone who has been in the hip hop industry for over 25 years. And I kind of picked his brain, has worked with some old school industries, big name labels that I won't name, but he told me from an artist I was managing, she needs to have eyelashes, she needs to have her nails done, and she needs to have booty shorts on, and she needs to play more twerk music. And that is exactly what, and then I've also experienced the lack of support with female rappers, that if you're a rapper, you're a poet. There's also production that's going into that. There's so much more that's going into it. And talent, it's still an artist. And these images that are being placed on women who are artists in certain industries, especially, is with the only one I can really speak on with my experience, is hip hop. And it's just, overall, I think that I love the idea of cultivating it from a young age, and that rap is okay. And it's still great, and that you can introduce instruments. You can introduce, I mean, I have this beautiful vision of having a yoga series where it's a musician with different instruments and having affirmations that rap artists put together, and it becomes a meditative aspect, because that's really what artists have in them. And so I'm learning, I'm actually, like, I would love to network and connect, because I am, again, still learning and decided to kind of do this, but the passion's there, and this just confirmed that. And I don't want to give up on the women in the industry and the men who support the women in the industry. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
Can I respond to one thing that stood out to me? I love everything you were saying, Kelly. And
thank you.
I love the idea of, like, how about instead of like someone telling me that I need to be this thing, that I choose to do this thing. In other words, so you brought up the booty shorts, which made me laugh out loud. Maybe I want to wear fucking booty shorts.
Period.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm gonna choose to do that. And that's, I don't want that to be the expectation. I want that to be like the thing that I choose as an artist to do, whether it's marketing or part of whatever, like the thing that gets exhausting as a woman in the entertainment industry, not just music, is just that there's this expectation. And I think if we own how it is we want to market and brand ourselves as artists, then there's just no discussion. And we've seen that with Lizzo, with Lady Gaga, with I mean, I'm just pulling recent examples, but there are seminal people, women who have exhibited that they're just like, fuck it. Like, let's just do this thing because it's what resonates for ourselves as artists and surely for other people. I think there's a great book I read. So can I drop a book title? It's called Radical Awakening. And it talks so much about women and men and how we as women can own being women. And for me, it was like it was a cool shift into not, damning men, because God, we love men. I mean, love them. But how about we love ourselves on at the same level, right? Why not? I think that's how we need to even the bar by loving ourselves as much as we love how we've been raised, right? All right, and
Can I hop in on?
I'll be quiet.
On two of the things that were said.
Hop in.
I want to go off the image thing just super quick. I don't want to go like too deep, but the branding your own image on it, like just stand firm on it and don't do anything that within reason. Like if you're wearing something that's like offensive or something, I don't know. But if and offensive determined by you, right? But because I feel like as women, the expectations, like we're not just playing like a guy just goes and plays, but we're going to look pretty as well. And we're going to do so like the expectation is higher. Like they would kind of tell us this at school. Our professors, they'd be like, we love you, but this is what's going to happen to you guys. You know what I mean? And like, so and they don't even pay us more for the expectation that they have. But if you stand firm and the things like whatever you want to wear, whatever you want to do, like, I think Lizzo's actually a great example of that because people tell her all the time what she can't do, but she can absolutely do it because she's doing it. You know what I mean? So, and then I want to touch on community, Vegas, I'm just very lucky growing up here in this town, but the women in this town support each other. And I think that maybe in other cities, starting that yourself and trying to find the group in your city and trying to have that support system, because all the women out here, they love each other and they raise each other up and they do it on social media. They do it in person, they word of mouth. If someone needs someone, like I have a list of women that I would suggest on the base before a bunch of guys. Like not that I don't love them, but we just see them all the time. And there's women over here that can play circles around these guys that don't get picked. But I would say start that with you, like that man in the mirror, like look in the man in the mirror kind of thing, and start that with you in your community, because Vegas, we are very lucky in that the women do support each other, and maybe we can turn that around in other communities so that they can be like that.
That would be awesome. And we're still building that community in Vegas. And I would love to at some point bring some of those community together, because I know there's pockets, and I'd like to bring all the pockets together and make a great big purse out of it. I want to mention Kathy Meyer Love. I think I said your name right. She says, if women aren't determined and confident in their artistry time and time again, because it's like a known fact in LA that you must fight for your stage. Men stand stronger as they've been given control over music like males. Kathy, I need you to unmute yourself, honey, and
Hey guys.
There she is.
Hey. So thank you for letting me be a guest and join in. It was pretty cool. I was just on social media the other night, I think a day ago, and it popped up and I was like, wow, that'd be so awesome. That's what I'm needing so much so, because on top of all adversities going on all over the place, especially I'm actually in Long Beach, California, but in LA and stuff, I literally am faced with everyday challenges, being like I put in my little chat or the chat that I'm both feminine and a tomboy and all that stuff, and people always want to try to judge everyone, period. We're just judged naturally as human beings, whether we say we don't, we do, on appearance. And time again, if I don't have my confidence, like some days I don't, like, let's just be honest, I literally like have just not even shown up to perform, like, or try to audition, because if I had like the support, you know, of other women and friends more so than I feel like most people do if you have a band or something, but as an individual artist, it's really hard to feel like, okay, if I get shut down or get turned down in this opportunity to go play like at an open mic night or something like that, what am I going to do and how am I going to feel? And I've totally been in that predicament time and time again, where you're like, no, we don't have time. Like, or you know what, maybe next time you should, you know, come through, or, you know, can I get your number and we'll give you a call or something like that. And it's really like disheartening. But at the same time, like, it's also one of the beautiful things about being a woman and being an artist and being a musician is that it just gives me more fuel to my artistry and more determination. I see that in a lot of you guys as I'm listening and hearing you guys talk and speak and stuff. But yeah, like, I mean, I was told over and over again, like, no, you can't play you can't be the drummer. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I was like, why? Like, why can't I? Like, I'm good. Like, you don't even want to hear me? No, nope, you can't play. And even at church growing up. And I put in my comment, I finally just was like, I'm gonna set up my own drum set outside and start playing. And literally I would do that just despite, you know, just be a rebel. And finally I got people around me, rallying around me and giving me opportunity. So, I mean, if it weren't for, I guess, my own determination, but also knowing that I'm just as good as a male. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if any of you guys have really faced that or not, but it's pretty much like do or die. But my voice needs to be heard, you know, and like that's part of why I jumped on this opportunity, is because like I'm definitely about, you know, wanting to figure out how can I be of service to the next generation as well. And the kids that are coming up, because I know that our schools and the way that the world is now is they're not giving the kids, they're not giving them the opportunities that like I was given. And maybe I was just blessed to have that. I grew up single parent. My mom was really never really around, but I had a Boys and Girls Club right in the back door of my elementary school. And like I said it earlier in the chat, second grade, we had music class. First grade, we had music class. And so you got to choose kind of pretty much your instruments or whatever, although like they kind of tried to force me on the clarinet and I sucked. I couldn't blow inside of that stupid thing for anything. But I mean, I know that out here, there's not music classes. So unless you have money to get, you know, someone who's going to teach you how to play and stuff, you're not given that. So.
Right. I think that's so important, Cassie. Like, and it's one of the awesome things I think about Jay Caballero's school is that it's the things are available. And representation, which is another thing I heard you say, and I've heard a lot of the panelists say, and I love that Jay has the representation at his school, that the music education is accessible, and that not only is he giving the girls a chance to do all of the stuff, he is requiring them to do at least some of the stuff so they can at least touch it and see and explore what it is. I'm gonna
That's
give,
awesome.
I know Mary's had like a burning comment for a second. Mary, if you want to chime
I
in.
have so many burning comments right now.
You normally do.
I always do. Y'all need to realize that if we're basing this off of 50 years ago, of course, now women have a voice. We didn't have a voice back then. You know, when I was getting in the business, there was all this crap and this, it depends on what you decide you're going to choose to take. You could speak up for yourself and stand up for yourself and kick that damn door down and make your own path. And yes, thank you, Harley, because in Las Vegas, we have a very strong female musician community out here. We have a really strong camaraderie. You know, the Chicks Who Rock show never would have happened if we would have had the cattiness. And, you know, out of 30 girls, when you only have one, that's a win. That's a super huge win. And yeah, but it's a novelty to play music. And I come from the school of, if somebody's paying $14 for a drink, I'm going to wear fishnets. I'm going to wear eyelashes. I'm going to actually give them what they paid for in that casino or in that showroom or on any stage that I do. You know, everybody dresses the part of their genre. You know, they dress the part of their image of who they want to be. You don't go to Walmart and change your oil and then go on stage and play. Or you do if you're in a little bar. But yes, women want, you know, the woman's job, the reason why a lot of women went from school to something else is because we were not really allowed to have that freedom of being the musician and being the person on the road and doing this and that. We've had that opportunity to get to do that. And it's how we choose to open our lives to do. And the things that we choose to open our lives to do, you know, I was on the road when I was 17 and it was all about learning people and getting to know people and keeping your eyes open. And just like any other business, there's always going to be the casting couch. No matter what it was back in the day, it was worse. Where, yeah, and back in when I was doing it, you say no, know when to say no, know where your boundaries are, know what you're worth. If you accept to take the money, it kind of sucks, but you don't have to, especially in these days, you don't have to. We have so much more of a voice. That's why the percentage of women on the Billboard charts is so much greater. Because we have that opening. That's why artists like Lizzo are able to perform. But she's not looking like she came from Walmart. She still looks hot. And yes, there's nothing wrong with us wanting to look sexy. It doesn't demoralize us. It doesn't cheapen us. If anything, it makes us stronger women. We chose to be like this. We choose to be present and mentoring and inclusive. And there's such a beautiful community of music out here for women that never has been. It was more catty 20 years ago when I first came to Vegas than it is right now. You know, I mean, She Clips said we're the world's only all-female Journey tribute. We just hired a young guitar player. And I mean, girl, she's young, but she's amazing. And I'm so looking forward to her journey. You know, I mean, we went through the mucky muck. You know, these kids these days, they talk about not being inclusive and stuff, but they're on the internet doing a performance in their bedroom. They're not traveling for 12 hours to stay in a crappy hotel, you know, with the tinfoil on the windows and it smells like God knows what from the band before. And, you know, it builds character. So I think with us having music in schools back in the day, thank you so much, Jay, for having that now, like you do. And I had the problem with School of Rock that they don't teach people how to perform. Yeah, let me teach you how to play the guitar, but what about all these people that, you know, they want to press the iPad thing is such a big deal right now. People, remember, when you're looking at an iPad on stage, you're still learning the song. You're not performing it anymore. You know, and everybody, I want all of these women on this panel to come to Vegas. Oh, come to Vegas. We could set up a jam. We could totally set up a jam and have a great camaraderie of strong female musicians, singers, players, rappers, dancers, everything. And you know, life is all what you make it, right? And when you see an obstacle, you find a way around it or find a way through it. You conquer that and know that there's always going to be someone to have your back. And especially with Music Alliance and with Shondell, if you guys even, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? She's going to find you somebody to help you out. We're all here to support each other. And, you know, I know it's been bad in the past and this and that, but I just want to push towards the future. A lot of the questions, you know, sexual harassment, the things that they asked us to do 35 years ago, they would never ask now.
Yes, they would. So I'm gonna interrupt you right there, and I'm actually going to post the stats and the research in the chat, just because Harley's got something to say, so I want to move on and
Okay.
just let her say
I
something.
won't say, okay.
However, though, what
Then
I would like to say is that's one of the reasons why I put this channel together, because that same stuff is still happening to girls.
Right,
And
no, I get it.
there's
All
a
I'm
divide between our generation. What I think you're talking about is that we, at our age, have grown into and this is just my opinion, but we have grown into ourselves. So we've seen women who got on the casting couch, we've seen women who didn't, and we've seen whatever rewards or consequences that they suffered because of that, and we didn't do it, but we have also grown into ourselves. I will tell you, I'm lucky I didn't fall prey to any of that stuff, but as I did not have the same mind or knowledge when I was, you know, 17, 18, trying to enter the business. You enter it because your parents have told you you can do whatever you want and so on and so forth, but you don't realize that there are people working against you. And I feel like if we didn't have these problems, we wouldn't have a need to have this channel, and we would definitely be more represented.
okay, no,
17% of the
I do understand. I'm saying that now women have a backbone to support that. You can call sexual harassment now, whereas you couldn't back then.
That's true, but you still pay for it. I still feel like that's why so many women are either choosing, and that's really what this is about. Like, between us going to school, right, and being so excited about the industry, like, you know what we think it's going to be when we, you know, people are teaching it to us and we want to get out there. And then, you know, us going on and being in the industry, lots of things are happening. Some of us are quitting to have families. Some of us decide that the industry is not for us, but some of us are still getting sexually harassed. There's a level of, you know, us not necessarily having the knowledge, the business knowledge to enter the industry and be able to fight. But then some of the ones who fight. So I just posted about Sinead O'Connor. I just got done watching her documentary. We never heard from her again. She used her platform. She refused to use her body. She constantly got asked about why she shaved her hair off. Doja Cat just shaved her hair off last year. Was such a huge deal that she shaved her. Like, people thought she had cancer, and she's like, no, I just wanted to shave my hair off. And beyond that, Sinead took a stand about women in the industry, Blacks in the industry, the Catholic Church, and she suffered, and it's still happening. It's still happening.
Right. No, I'm saying that now we have a platform. We have support that we did not have even 10 years ago. We didn't have this kind of support that we have.
I'll buy that. I want to get to Harley, but my question and what we want to continue with the channel is, where is that backbone? Where are those communities? Why haven't things progressed as quickly as they should have? And how can we be mentors and build the kinds of networks that you're talking about that we have in Vegas to support that? But I'm going to go ahead and call on Harley.
That's kind of cool, because your question kind of goes into my thing. So this answers like Cassie's question, or from earlier. There were some things that were said, but the biggest one for me was, we don't have access to the information. We have access to all the information in the world. You don't need money. As long as you have your phone, your internet, you can go to the library, you can look this stuff up. Anything is on YouTube. So, like, I tell my kids to look up stuff all the time. we can look up anything on YouTube. There's great stuff for bass playing. There's like Scott's bass lessons. He's one of the greatest bass players on the internet. Just look up like the resources for whatever you want to do, whatever it is. There's stuff for production. There's stuff for audio engineering. There's stuff for lighting and sound design. There's stuff for guitar. There's stuff for bass. Whatever you want to work on, there are lessons. All that stuff is online and it is free. And we live in a wonderful time because maybe 20, 30 years ago, if you didn't learn it in school, you didn't have access to that. But now you can simply be sitting on TikTok and going through these videos. So one, I would say to anyone that feels like there's no information, please take a look at that. There's all kinds of free information. And then how can we make ourselves more connected to other groups and stuff like that? In your case, Cassie, you mentioned being queer. I would absolutely take a look at your local queer community and start like, go on Lex, go on and be like, I'm looking for other queer musicians. Who's here? What's going on? I'm looking for other women in the scene. Who's here? What's going on? Let's connect. Let's be friends. That way we can have that kind of stuff that we do that stuff in Vegas. Yeah, Mary always does that. Mary is like actually a great example of that. Anywhere I go, everyone knows her. Everyone loves her. She's always saying great things about everyone. And that's like she's always connecting. The second she sees someone, she's like, another woman, I'm there. And she connects. And that's the same kind of stuff, especially us. Like we have that extra layer. We can talk to people. Like anytime I go out and I see someone that's queer and I tell them, they're like, oh my God, they get really excited. You know what I mean? So connect with those people, connect with anyone that you feel that is a group that is special to you. If you're queer, look for queer musicians. If you're a woman, look for women musicians. If you're Black, if you're Latino, if you're non-binary, look for these people and make these connections in your scene. That's how you can get these groups. And I think that it's just very important to connect with all these people, especially if you're trying to branch out and play with people or do like, I do music production. I have a studio in my home. I can record a full band, and just going out and talking to people, I've been able to record people and do tracks for them and get people that I would have never thought, like a cello player on someone's track. And it's just been beautiful. And it's all by making connections because someone is queer or someone is a woman. And so I highly encourage everyone to take the time to do that. We have the resources, we have our phones, we have the internet, we have I can go to a show myself and start talking to people myself, like kind of ability.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm going to give Kelly Cox a second to speak. Give me 1 second, Kelly. We're running short on time, and I knew this was going to happen because there's so much to unpack here, which is why we're going to get together once a month. I'm going to go ahead and drop all of our panelists' information in the chat while Kelly is making her comment, and then we'll come around and we'll have closing remarks from our panelists. But I just want our guests to realize and our members that this conversation is not over. We will see you guys in the Slack channel. We're definitely going to invite you. We'll keep talking, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you next month. But Kelly, did you want to go ahead and make your comment while I put this info in the chat?
Yes, thank you so much. I really just wanted to speak on the fact that I do agree, first of all, that it is wonderful and beautiful that you find your community and where you fit, and to really embrace that for the support system and to know that. But if this is something you really want to go into and you really want to expand on and you want to like have this be who you are, it goes bigger than just your community. And that's the part where sexual harassment is very real. And when I told you and mentioned that I've been exposed to a lot of people in the industry, a lot of people with record labels, a lot of people that are musicians themselves, the way that it is done, sexual harassment, there's no, I'm coming from an HR background. There's no HR to call. There's no there's nothing you can do and there's nothing you can say except for stand on your own 2 feet. And I get that. I think women have had a way better backbone. And so I will say that. But as far as it not being something that is happening, it has happened to so many of my young female artists that just because they're beautiful and they do like their lashes and their booty shorts, because believe me, I do too. I don't have it on right now, but I love looking hot and I love looking fine. But that also, even as a manager or as someone who supports the art, I walk into a bar. I was literally 3 days ago was told, damn girl, why are you in this industry? You could make $4,000 a day getting paid for sex. I don't make, this is happening today in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm, again, it was way worse in Chicago. So I just want to make that be a real thing about the things that I still hear and still experience personally. And I'm not even the artist that's trying to get to the point and have to network and use those relationships to follow my dreams. And it's just real. I just wanted to speak on that. And it's just, I'm cool with it. I can handle myself and I shut that shit down real quick, but I'm also not trying to get to the top in that aspect. I have to deal with that end on the other end with like the record labels and those types of things, and even production and female DJs and that aspect. So I do believe in finding support systems like this. And I'm just so happy I decided to join, because there's still a lot of work to do on that front. And that's more so, but the support progress has been made and definitely changes been made. And so I don't want to discredit that, but that's all. Thank you for letting me enter that in. Thanks.
I love that she's the balance like that. And I love that we have so many varied opinions about this stuff, because that's the most important part, that we're a community with all different perspectives. And perspectives are based on experiences, and some of them are common, some of them we have to share because other people haven't had them, or, you know, otherwise, what's a community? I'm going to go around. I put everybody's information in the chat. Jay, did I get your information right? Did I?
Yeah, it's deltaacademylv.com, but we also have the conservatory website, which is rapalv.com, which I put on there.
I see. Thank you. So since we have your mic unmuted already, so I'm going to go around because there's so much that could be said about everything. What I'm going to ask is two things. I'm going to ask each panelist if you were, and Jay is going to be a little bit different, but what I normally ask our panelists, what would you tell yourself as a 14-year-old girl entering the industry? So Jay, I'm going to ask you, actually, what did you tell your daughters when they were studying music? And then, so that will be the first question. And then the second thing is, please let us know what's coming up in the future for you.
Dad has 3 degrees, but it doesn't matter. It's like, you just do what you're interested in, you're passionate about, and you love it. If it's music, that's what I'm going to support. I really don't care about this is just me. I don't care about the PhDs, the MAs, whatever. It's like, you just love what you're doing. And if it's going to be music industry, whatever it is, I'm going to be there to support you. So that's what I'll say to my 14-year-old, but actually they're in their 20s now.
Right. That's right. And gorgeous and smart and good people too. I've seen these kids. And what's coming up for you as an artist and at RAPA?
One second, let me close my door. The dogs are barking.
I understand. I barricaded my 3 dogs downstairs.
Okay, I'm sorry, Shondell. Ask me a question again.
What is coming up for RAPA this summer and for you as an artist?
Yeah, so I would love, of course, the local panel members as well as others here in the city to come out to our school, because we want to expose our students to just the people that are doing it. And as you know, these are 9th through 12th graders. They're starting their journey. And so we want to expose them to all of your experiences and life experiences and stories that you have to tell. So I invite any of you to come out to our school anytime this coming school year, as well as our guests that are from Chicago, Detroit. If you're in Vegas, just come give me a buzz and we'll get you a tour of the school and talk to our students. And then just finally, really quick, we're starting our school year on August 7th. This is our 3rd year, and we have 3 cohorts of students, and these are young kids that audition to get in the school, but they're beginning, intermediate, and advanced players. And so we're just not interested in just the advanced kids coming in, but we just want to see growth and development and just the interest and passion for this, whether it takes them to the music industry or not. But that's where, and then the last thing is graduating from high school, 100% graduation rate. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Shondell.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jay. Harley, I'm going to ask you next. What would you have told your 14-year-old self about the industry, and what is coming up for you? What are you doing this summer?
That's such a good question, because when I was 14, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. So here, I guess I would tell myself that pay cut. No, I think thick skin, because it's a little tough sometimes. Like certain situations, like certain stuff's disheartening. Like even going to the music store sometimes, you know. But have some thick skin and just remember that you love it, because that's why we do it, right? That's why we go through all this weird stuff, and because we just love it. We just love it. It's in our DNA. But maybe for some people, even like if they didn't start with it and they end up there, like they always loved music, you know. So it just remember that you love it, and that's why you do it. Because if you're loving what you're doing, then are you really working, you know? So that's it. Oh, what am I doing now? That's the important. That was the
Yeah.
next part of the question. I have in a few weeks, so on July 14th, my album with Jack comes out. It's called Birds Aren't Real. We worked with a lot of people in the community. So my goal with this production was to be as collaborative as possible and network with a whole bunch of queer people, with a whole bunch of women, a bunch of people of color, and we got them on this album. Very excited for that, and we will be debuting that album on the 15th at the rooftop of Taverna Costera. I'm always recording and looking for people to record with, and Jay, I'm absolutely interested in getting in contact with you for Delta Academy for the wrap-up program. And I also have a musical. There's a production, a parody of Scream by the makers of the parody of The Craft and the people that brought Hedwig and stuff at Majestic Repertory Theater. It will be running from September 1st to November 11th, and I'll be playing the bass on that. And those are always just a blast. I always have a great time there. So hope to see y'all.
Thank you, Harley. I will be there. I had a blast last time I came to see you guys. I'm going to ask Eva next. Eva, what would you have told your 14-year-old self, and what are you up to this summer?
Oh, sure. I would say look for a mentor, somebody that, and if find somebody in the scene that you look up to, and don't be afraid to ask, you know, can I help you, or go to their shows, help them backstage, shadow them. You know, if you ask, you know, a lot of artists like myself would say yes, you know, and anybody else, if you have any questions or anything, you know, I've been in the scene and dealt with a lot of stuff, technical difficulties, setting up backstage, things like that. So just ask for a mentor, you know, somebody, and don't be afraid to keep learning, you know. Also, what I'm doing for the future, I'm gigging with At Stays in Vegas here at Fremont, and I'm also performing different shows around town. My next other different show I'm performing would be at the Mirage on Saturday the 8th. And then other than that, I'm working on just a solo record, a guitar record for me, recording my own music, being creative. So,
Awesome.
But yeah, anybody out there, you know, if you have any questions or about the industry or technical stuff, setting up guitar stuff, you know, shoot me a message on Facebook. I'd love to help any women or future artists.
And she can also sell you your dream home if you're interested in.
That's true too. That's true too. I'm with eXp Realty, and I actually do love selling homes as well. And my website for that is evalasvegashomes.com. So that's my other expertise. Thank you.
Now I will not be able to stop singing Eva Las Vegas.
Yeah.
How about you next, Renee? What would you tell your 14-year-old self, and what are you up to? Not even just this summer, because I want you to talk about your musical.
Yes. All right. So 14 years old, I would say I would have told her to put her foot down for her art while being open to expressing it often. Putting your foot down for your art, you know, because a lot of us know pretty early on where we're at. And I used to envy my peers because they were like, yeah, I don't really know what I want to do. And they were like going into college and grad school. And still just not, I knew way before. I have actually right here. This is a little picture of myself with, oh my God, I totally forgot his first name, but his last name is Walker, and me. And this was my literal kindergarten first ever performance. And I have it here because I knew that I was like, this is it. Like I'm in. And I think if we can encourage our kids to, you know, whether they're our kids or we're teaching them or whoever, nieces, nephews, to really like celebrate and embrace that, we're going to like make it a lot easier down the road for everybody, because there are people who are just meant to do what they do. So that's what I would say at my 14-year-old self. And then what I've got going on is, yes, in 2024, I wrote a musical called 54 the Musical, and it's been in development for way too long, with different iterations along the way and productions and so on. And it was picked up by a producer this last fall. So it's going to be premiering in their 2024 season here on the East Coast. So it's a lot of exciting things to come. So yeah, that's what's up.
All right, keep us posted. I'm excited. Let's ask Jasmine next. Jasmine, what would you tell your 14-year-old self, and tell us what you've got coming up as an artist and about your branding course?
Okay, great. Well, 14 was a very pivotal year. So it's an important year for anyone, right? Because it's like you're going from, it's a rebellious time, right? And I feel like that's a time in your life where you, I don't know, I feel like that's when your purpose really happens, not to get too deep. So I was a poet like my whole life. And I would have told my 14-year-old self to really focus more on that instead of go in the family direction of business. I would have started songwriting much earlier and believing yourself more. So definitely I think 14-year-olds in general need to hear that. I have a lot going on. So tomorrow, actually, I'm teaching an artist branding crash course on Zoom for Funkadelic Studios, which is a partner rehearsal space of mine in Midtown Manhattan, run by a woman. So she's been running it for 30 years. She's the only woman that owns a rehearsal space in New York City. So I'm running that course tomorrow. It's on Zoom. I have a very comprehensive artist branding course, thanks for mentioning that, on Udemy. And it walks you through A to Z. A to Z, I've written a few books on branding. So, you know, how do you develop your artist brand through, most importantly to me, how do you monetize that brand and choose your profession? So that's on Udemy. You just look artist branding for business. I'm sure you'll drop the discount in the chat, which is fine. My band, one of my bands has a show coming up July 8th, which I'm very excited about, in New York City, but we always live stream. So if you want to catch it, my band is called Silent Fury. It's Silent Fury Band on all social media. I'm writing a concept album with an aggressive metal band. I'm a lyricist and a singer. So that album should be coming out this year. I just have a lot going on in the music world. And I'm going to be going back to Juilliard actually for composition. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I mean, feel free to check out. Also, one other thing I'd like to say is obviously my Warrior Women in Business. I'm going to be in LA the week of July 18th, running 2 events out there in Beverly Hills for women in business. So if anybody happens to be in LA, you're definitely welcome. I'm running a free event at Cafe Roma in Beverly Hills. It's going to be beautiful. So if you're in LA in July, check us out, Warrior Women in Business. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jasmine.
You're welcome.
And I've saved Mary for last. Because Mary normally has the most to say about the most things. So
Sorry, guys. I know
don't be sorry. That's why we invited you.
This what I would tell my 14-year-old self.
Yeah.
Boys will always be there. So don't mess with them yet. Focus on your own shit, your own career. Focus on where you want to be in 10 years. Focus on your family. Keep your eyes open and your mouth shut. Always know that when you open your instrument out, take it out, you are there to learn something, to have fun, and to make money. Never sell yourself short. Always know what your worth is. Oh, wow. I could say a bunch of things. Make sure you practice in front of the TV or in front of a mirror so you don't look all crazy. Make sure you make eye contact, because the second you lose eye contact, you're flipping off your audience. Give someone a performance that you would want to see, that would make you feel proud to be there, and do it for all the right reasons. Do them for your reasons, not for someone else's. If I could have told myself that at 14, I'd be probably one of the most successful women in the planet. But all of us would be, if we knew to get out of our own way and know that there's always somebody there for you. There is always going to be a support system. And if anybody's still on here, because I'm still talking, reach out, absolutely reach out. We are all about camaraderie. You know, that the whole reason why Eva stopped in Vegas was because of me and Shondell and Groove Kitty, and it was the best experience, and you will always be my family. We have this thing, you know, and I even feel that with Harley. Harley got to be in one of the Chicks Who Rock shows, and she was amazing. She came in like a whirling dervish, showed up damn near late, came in, played the bass, and then she was done. Peace, she's out. But there's, and everybody's personalities and everybody's genres and everybody's lifestyles, there is a way for all of us to fit. There is such a way for all of us to fit. And I'm so thankful to be around all of you strong artists, because there are men on this panel, all of you strong artists, and it warms my heart. And yes, I love you, Eva, and I love you, Chantel.
I love you right back.
Yes, Eva was she was heading to LA, and we nabbed her in Vegas.
Yeah, y'all better be careful coming out here, because you might not leave.
Right? You won't. I'm telling you, you won't. The new dude.
That's what happened to me. Yeah. I was going to LA, and then they nabbed me for the show, and I've been here ever since.
I'm telling you guys that the dude that's subbing in the Michael Jackson Evolution show, I met him in the Bay Area. And I said, if you ever come to Vegas, call me. And now he's subbing, because I introduced him as, this is going to be your new sub. He will be playing in your show. And you just manifest that, put that out there, stay positive, never have regrets. Make sure you have closure at the end of the day. Make sure you're happy with yourself at the end of the day. Your decisions were what you need to do for you. You know, don't overthink things. I'm still talking to my 14-year-old self right now, by the way. I'm just, it's so important for me to help people get out of their own way, because I was too much in mine. You know, all these years, I love what I do, and I would die if I couldn't do it. But if I was out of my own way at 14, I would be so successful right now. But I am successful in my own heart and with the people that I love. And there's so many people on this panel and that are watching right now that have such a huge impact in my life and that means something to me. And I am going to be always your ride or die. I'm always going to be there. And that's what kind of community Vegas has. And I'm super thankful that we do, because I know there are other communities where women are backstabbing each other, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, I have shows. Anyhow, after the 3 Lockbox stuff, She Clips has this, we're doing a collaboration with some of the girls from the Iron Maidens. So that's what I'm talking about, camaraderie. You know, we're going to do a dual show together, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. You know, I play in 5 different tributes and sub and 2 others, and I play all styles of music, but jazz and rap. But I'm producing orchestrated all jazz female Lady Gaga jazz tribute right now. That's what I'm in the middle of doing. And it's going to be a 30-piece orchestra. And that's a big undertaking out here, but musicians need camaraderie and they need support and they need love and they need to be in the forefront again. You know, when COVID took our lives over and they came back and said, no, it's okay. No, are you kidding? There is a soundtrack to your whole life. That's why Shondell put me last, by the way. There's a soundtrack to your whole life, to your birthday. There's one for when you get married. There's one for when you die. There's all of this stuff. So we are so important to people's life and people's breathing and people's psyche and people's soul, you know, and to be able to do that. I'm just super happy to be here. And yes, my 14-year-old self would get a whole lot of knowledge because she would be around all of you strong men and women, all of you female artists out there. And I would put her right in your face and she would be amazing. And she would know the keys of the song she's singing and she would tell, you know, I would make sure she comes correct because that's what my girl does. So yes, I'm very, very thankful and proud to be a musician. I'm thankful and proud to be on this panel. I'm thankful and proud that anybody's still even listening to me, and I will mute myself right now. Thank you so much, Shondell, for having me. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming, especially our panelists. I know that I had like a little production schedule of questions scheduled for like an hour, and it's been 2. I promise to try as much as we can. It's not your fault, Mary. There is a lot to unpack, but we're gonna keep doing this. That's how magnificent she's got her own cup. But we're gonna keep doing this. Please join us the next month. It's always going to be the last Wednesday of the month. And so we'll make sure we get out the information on the next one for you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. We will see you guys in the Slack channel.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Record.